people, it takes a law, and it takes land. So it takes people, law, and land. Last week we looked at the promises to Abraham, renewed to Isaac and to Jacob both. And then we noticed how God carried that out, how God carried all of that through in the life of Joseph. He takes Joseph to prison, to slavery in Egypt. Joseph is made head of the house in Egypt. He's then sold into, arrested for a crime he didn't commit and sent to prison. And there in the jail house, he's in Potiphar's jail. So Potiphar evidently didn't believe too much about what had happened to him, because he put him in his own jail and made him in charge of it. Being in charge of the jail, he met those two people, the butler and the baker. The butler and the baker had dreams. The butler's dream was that he was serving wine to the king again, and the baker's dream was that he had a basket of fruit upon his head, of bread upon his head, and birds came and ate it. And the dream of the butler was he was going to be restored to Pharaoh's, and the dream of the baker was he was going to be hung. Both happened. The butler went back to Pharaoh's house and forgot about Joseph until 2 years later when Pharaoh had a dream. Pharaoh had two dreams. One was sheaves, and not sheaves. One was grains of wheat that he said saw 7 large grains of wheat come up, and then 7 small grains of wheat, weak and very poorly, ate them up and became no richer or no better. And then he saw 7 real fat cows, and then 7 lean cows came up and ate them, became no fat or anything. So he was, what in the world have I dreamed? Joseph was summoned by the butler, who remembered that he had forgotten him, and he told Pharaoh about him, and Pharaoh brought him in, and he told him his dream. Pharaoh said, "Tell me my dream," and Joseph said, "No one can reveal dreams except God in heaven." And then he said, "Here's what your dreams mean. You're going to have 7 years of plenty in Egypt. And then you're going to have 7 years of famine in Egypt. And the famine is going to be so severe that the whole world is going to suffer." And so Pharaoh said, "Where can we find a man in whom is the wisdom of God like this man?" So he said, "I'm going to put you in charge." So he made him his vicar, which means ruler for him. And so Joseph became the ruler in Egypt under Pharaoh, second in command, minister, if you want to call him that, of Egypt. And he started collecting the grain. He collected grain for 7 years. He stored it up in huge, vast storage bins that they built underground. And they found some of those today, some of those huge bins underground, and they don't have any idea what they were used for. The Bible tells us what they were used for. They were used to store grain. And so the famine came. And the second year of famine, Jacob and his family in Israel, in Palestine, were suffering. And they're out of food, and they're going to die. And Jacob sends his sons to Egypt to buy grain. They go to Egypt, and you remember the story? First they go, they're given their money back, and they leave. And they go and they find the money in their sacks, and they go back and they tell him that the money was found in their sacks. And he told them that he was going to keep one of their brothers there, and they have to go home and get their little brother, bring him back. And so he went home, and Dad says, "No, I'm not sending my son to Egypt because I've lost one son. I'm not going to lose this one. My gray hairs would go down in death without any relief at all." And so he finally sends his sons back with his little boy. And they go back to Egypt. Joseph reveals himself to them. They weep over one another. Pharaoh sees all of this and says, "Go get your father and their family and bring them here to Egypt. We'll give them place to stay and land to take care of." And so Joseph sends the brothers home with a huge caravan of stuff. And they go home and they take it to their father and they tell him, "Your son Joseph is alive." And he says, "No, my son Joseph is dead." They said, "No, he's really alive. Come and look at all this stuff." And they have all of these wagons and camels loaded with stuff and everything. And so Jacob believes, and he says, okay, we'll go. And so they pack up, get on the camels, get in the carts and all of that stuff, and head back to Egypt. And they get back to Egypt, and there they are for 400 years. In 400 years, they become 1.5 million people, enough people to make a nation. And so God is ready to deliver them out of Egypt. Now, tonight, we begin part D, page 25, the Exodus out of Egypt, fourth generation.
John,
Yes?
did the brothers or Joseph ever told their dad, Isaac, what they did to him?
No?
He never got,
No.
They found Joel, his brother?
Never told it. I mean, the Bible doesn't say that he told it, but they may have. And the father may have realized later what happened, but we don't know of anybody telling it. They sure could have. Okay. The statement of God in Genesis chapter 15, verse 16 is, in the fourth generation, your descendants will come back here. For the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. So you count 4 generations from that time when they went down into Egypt until the time they come out. And you have Levi, Kohath, and Levi is Levi's son. Amram is Kohath's son. Moses and Aaron are Amram's sons. And so the fourth generation, they come out. Now, what is Moses doing? What Moses is doing is tracing these patriarchs. There was Abraham, there was Isaac, there was Jacob, and then Jacob had his 12 sons. Which of these sons is going to be traced to the great deliverer Moses? Is it going to be Reuben, the oldest? Simeon? Judah? No. It's Levi. Levi is the one son from whom Moses and Aaron both come. And they then are going to be the ones who lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. In Exodus 6, 18 through 20, the Bible says, and the sons of Kohath were Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. He states in verse 19, these are the families of the Levites. And he says in verse 20, Amram, that was one of the sons of Levi, took him, Jochebed, his father's sister, to wife, and she bare him Aaron and Moses. Now, that kind of sounds like, what's her name in prison, doesn't it? Aruna. Her mother's brother became her husband. Kind of like...
Isn't she old?
Moses' mother was his father's sister. Okay. Now, the law is what's next. We have the people. The land has already been given to them. They're going to have to go take it. But the land has already been given to Moses. Already been given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He said, this land upon which you live, as far as you can see, is yours. From the river of Egypt clear up to the great river, the Euphrates. Huge parcel of land. He says, this land is yours. So they have the land. They have the people now. Now they need a law. So, going out of Egypt in the fourth generation, let's read. Alana, you get Exodus 6, 16 through 20, 25 and 26. Emily, I want you to read Exodus chapter 19, 1 through 6. Joanne, chapter 20, 1 through 17. Martha, chapter 34, 27 through 28. That's all in Exodus. Okay, we'll start out with reading Exodus 6, 16 through 20. 25 and 26.
These are the names of the sons of Levi according to their generations. Gershon, Kohath, Merari. The years of the life of Levi being 137 years. The sons of Gershon, Libni and Shimei by their clans. The sons of Kohath were Amram, Ishar, Hebron, and Aziel. The years of the life of Kohath being 133 years. The sons of Merari were Mali and Mushi. These are the clans of the Levites, according to their generations. Amram took as his wife Jochebed, his father's sister, and she bore him Aaron and Moses, the years of the life of Amram being 137 years.
And verse 25 and 26.
Eleazar, Aaron's son, took as his wife one of the daughters of Petuel, and she bore him Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites by their clans. These are the Aaron and Moses to whom the Lord said, "Bring out the people of Israel from the land of Egypt by their hosts."
So you read there in Exodus chapter 6 that the prophecy that God told Abraham, in the fourth generation, the children of Israel are going to come out of Egypt. You see that it's actually happened in the fourth generation. Now, the law is going to have to be given. Exodus 19, 1 through 6, Emily.
On the third new moon after the people of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on that day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. They set out from Rephidim and came into the wilderness of Sinai, and they encamped in the wilderness. There Israel encamped before the mountain. While Moses went up to God, the Lord called to him out of the mountain, saying, "Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the people of Israel, you yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the people of Israel."
They are now a nation. God says, you are now a nation of people. I'm bringing you out of Egypt. Okay, chapter 21 through 17. This is the giving of the law.
Okay. And God spoke all these words: "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything, in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sins of the father to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing love to the 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord shall not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all of your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your sons or daughters, nor your manservants or maidservants, nor your animals, nor the alien within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land, and the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. When the thunder and lightning, and heard the trumpet, and they saw the mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear. They stayed in the distance and said to Moses, "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But do not have God speak to us, or we will die." And Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. God has come to test you, so that the fear of God will be with you to keep you from sinning." The people remained in the distance while Moses appeared in the thick darkness where God was.
All right. They have now a people, which is they're becoming a nation of people. They have a law given to them. And in chapter 34, verses 27 and 28.
Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write down these words, for in accordance with these words I have made a covenant between us with Israel." Moses was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights without eating bread or drinking water, and he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 Commandments.
All right. When Moses came down from the mountain the first time, what happened to the tablets that he had?
He broke them.
Who'd written them?
God's finger.
God had. Remember? He comes down the second time with 2 tablets of stone. Who writes them?
Moses did.
He did. Moses wrote them. And now he's coming down with them on the mountain, and they have their law. The people are a nation now. They have a law. All they need is to go in and take their land, and they will be a nation of people. It's interesting how the Old Testament tells us how God did this, bringing from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then the children of Israel, a nation of people out of Egypt, and giving them a law and making them a nation of people, the Israelites. What a wonderful story the Old Testament is. It's history. It's telling us exactly how God brings Jesus Christ into this earth. And right here, through this story that we're reading tonight, we see how God is bringing of Abraham a nation of people through whom he's going to bring his son eventually. What a wonderful
Why
story.
did Moses write the second time and not God?
I don't know. I just know he did.
I think it's because he threw them in anger and broke them. So next time he made them do all the work so that he would not do
Think twice about it.
think twice
Maybe
about
think
breaking them.
twice about throwing them on the
I'm
ground.
guessing.
Because he was upset.
Could be.
I mean, imagine having to chisel all that in there.
That's right.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. A lot of work. All of that words, that's a lot of work. Okay. Now the law of Moses was only for the Israelites. We need to understand that. Only the Israelites were God's people. Only them. Nobody else on the face of the earth were God's people. Now there were people who were servants of God. Do you remember them?
The Levites.
Huh?
The Levites?
No.
Girgasites?
No.
Begins with a G?
Do you remember
Gershonites?
Balaam? He was a prophet of who? And he came to Balak, and Balak tried to get him to curse the people of Israel. You remember him? Balaam was a prophet of God. Who was a priest of God? Melchizedek was, but another one that we meet when Moses comes on the scene. Anybody remember? It's his father-in-law.
Oh, Jethro?
Jethro is a priest of God. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Jethro is not an Israelite. He's a priest of God. Balaam was not an Israelite. What was he? Moabite.
Okay.
But also what was in charge at that time was the patriarchs.
Yes.
They were patriarchs.
Yes. They weren't a nation of people. They were people through whom God spoke, or to whom God spoke and gave his rules, regulations, laws, and dealt with people. But now, no more. Now there's going to be a nation of people through whom God is going to work. Okay, let's, Brother Little John, you get Exodus. No, we already read that. Read it again. Exodus 34, 27, 28. Deuteronomy 4, 1 through 1 and 8. Claude. And Shirley, chapter 5, 1 through 3. And Brian, chapter 33, verse 4. What time? Oh my goodness. You're going to have to hurry. Read.
34, 27, 28. And the Lord said unto Moses, write those things, these words for after the words I have made a covenant with thee and with Israel. And he said, and he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He did neither eat bread nor drink water, and he wrote upon the tablets words of the covenant, the Ten Commandments.
Claude, Deuteronomy 4, 1 and 8.
Now Israel, this is the statute for the rules that I'm teaching you unto them. Could you bend there? I'm going and take possession of the land that the Lord of God and God the Father has given you.
Verse 8.
Keep that. Do that.
What definition is there? Because I stopped you from you, so right here. The Lord is law, I like 7:20.
And what other nation has this body of laws that I'm giving you? There's no other nation, only Israel. All right, let's quit.